bones of the free upper limb. And let's start with the brachial region. Here we have only one long bone, which is called humerus, of course. It connects the scapula and the two bones of the antebrachium. Of course, you can see that each long bone has three parts: proximal end, body, and distal end. Let's start with the proximal end or proximal extremity. Here we have the head of the humerus, which is actually articular surface for connection with the glenoid cavity of the scapula. They form glenohumeral joint or just articulatio humeri. So that's the head. Below it, or the line which surrounds the head is called, this one, the line here, is the anatomical neck. And distal to these tubercles is the surgical neck. Surgical because here is the point where the fracture, where are the fractures actually. So anatomical neck, which surrounds the head. The surgical neck below these tubercles. But we have head, then we have the anatomical neck, and more distally we have two tubercles, greater and lesser tubercle, or in Latin you can say tuberculum majus and tuberculum minus, and between them is the intertubercular groove, sulcus intertubercularis, or in some books you can find bicipital groove, sulcus bicipidalis. Because in this groove you can find the tendon of the biceps brachii, musculus biceps brachii. Greater tubercle, lesser tubercle, the groove between them, and distally to these tubercles is the surgical neck. And that's for the proximal end. You have to say the head, the anatomical neck, two tubercles, greater tubercle, lesser tubercle, and the groove between them, sulcus intertubercularis. Below the tubercles is the surgical neck, column chirurgicum. So that's the anterior view, that's the posterior view. We have the same things. Head for the connection with the glenoid cavity, anatomical neck, greater tubercle, the lesser is not visible from this side, and below them, surgical neck. And that's for the proximal end. Head, the two necks, two tubercles, and the groove between them. After that, here is the body, of course. Let's see. Sulcus intertubercularis, crista tuberculi majoris. So, here, the tubercles, I told you that they are separated by a deep groove called the bicipital or intertubercular groove. This groove has lips, and they are called respectively the crests of the greater and lesser tubercles. So from the greater tubercle start crista tuberculi majoris humeri, from lesser tubercle starts crista tuberculi minoris humeri, and they form the upper parts of the anterior and medial borders of the body of the bone, blah blah. So Here, from the greater tubercle starts this one here is the Crista tuberculi majoris humeri. Here, from lesser tubercles, start Crista tuberculi minoris humeri. And the body. The body, or in Latin corpus humeri, triangular. It has two borders, margo lateralis, margo medialis. It has three surfaces, of course, facies anterolateralis, the area between the lateral border of the humerus to the line drawn as a continuation of the Crista tuberculi majoris humeri. It's smooth, but here we can, on this surface, we can find the deltoid tuberosity. That's the insertion of the deltoid muscle, deltoid tuberosity, here on the body. Facies anteromedialis, I told you that each bone has this foramen, this nutrient foramen, and facies posterior. Facies posterior is crossed by a groove, which is called sulcus nervi radialis, where is located the radial nerve. So, on the body, you have to remember these two things, deltoid tuberosity and radial groove for the radial nerve. Again, for the proximal end, we have head, caput humeri. This next to it is the anatomical neck, the line which surrounds it. After that, we have two tubercles, greater tubercle, lesser tubercle, tubercle majoris humeri, tubercle minoris humeri. From them, below starts two lines or two crests, Crista tuberculi majoris and Crista tuberculi minoris humeri. Between these tubercles is the intertubercular groove. Below these two tubercles is the surgical neck. After that, we have body, corpus humeri, with three surfaces, facies anteromedialis, anterolaterales, and the posterior and the facies posterior. Of course, I told you, you have to remember this one, deltoid tuberosity, and on the posterior side, the radial groove for the radial nerve. You can see here, again, that's the head with the anatomical neck. Here you can see greater tuberosity, lesser tuberosity with intertubercular groove. This is Crista tuberculi majoris humeri, or crest of greater tuberosity. This one here is Crista tuberculi minoris humeri, or crest of lesser tuberosity. That's the intertubercular groove with two lips. Crista tuberculi majoris, Crista tuberculi minoris humeri. Below the two tubercles is the surgical neck here. That's the body. This is the anterolateral surface. That's the anteromedial surface. On the anterolateral surface is deltoid tuberosity, the insertion place of the deltoid muscle. That's the posterior view. On the posterior side, you can see the radial groove for the radial nerve. Also here, that's the radial groove. And let's continue with the distal end. We have two epicondyles, medial or epicondyus medialis humeri, which is bigger, and lateral epicondyus lateralis humeri, which is smaller. Above them, we have again two crests, crista supraepicondylariis medialis, so be above the epicondyle, which is called crista supraepicondylariis, respectively medial or lateral. And behind the medial epicondyle, there is another groove, but for the ulnar nerve, not for the radial, for the ulnar, sulcus nervi ulnaris. Distal to the epicondyles, we have massive structure, which is called condylus humeri. And again, it is actually an articular surface, but for the bones of the forearm, of the antebrachium. It has two parts, lateral and medial part. The lateral part consists of capitulum humeri, which articulates with the head of the radial bone, and the medial part is called trochlea humeri. Let's see these things. So here, that's the distal part. We can find here two epicondyles. Lateral epicondyle, which is smaller, medial epicondyle, which is bigger. Above them, we can find crista supraepicondylariis. This one should be medialis. This is crista supraepicondylariis lateralis, or lateral supracondylar ridge. You can say supracondylaris or supraepicondylariis. It doesn't matter. You can use both names, supracondylaris or supraepicondylariis. So that's the medial epicondyle, that's the lateral epicondyle. Sorry. Distally to them, that's the condylus humeri with two parts, lateral and medial. The lateral part is called capitulum. The medial part is called trochlea humeri. That's the articular surface. So, lateral and medial epicondyle, the two crests above them, and condylus humeri, condyle of the humerus, with two parts, lateral and medial. The lateral part is called capitulum, the medial part is called trochlea humeri. That's from the anterior view. From the posterior, you can see again medial epicondyle, lateral epicondyle, lateral supraepicondylar ridge, medial supracondylar ridge, with the condyle of the humerus, with, of course, the trochlea. I told you that behind the medial epicondyle there is a groove, which is called sulcus nervi ulnaris, for the ulnar nerve, behind the medial epicondyle. So, above the front part of the trochlea, we have one fossa here, which is called fossa coronoidea, for the coronoid process of the ulna. Above the back part of the trochlea is the fossa olecrani, for the olecranon of the ulna. Above the front part of the capitulum is fossa radialis, for the head of the radial bone. You can see here. From the anterior view, above the capitulum is the radial fossa. Above the trochlea is the coronoid fossa. So, on the anterior view, we have two fossae. On the posterior, we have only one, fossa olecrani. Radial fossa above the capitulum, coronoid fossa above the trochlea humeri. On the dorsal side, we have only one fossa, which is called fossa olecrani. So, what else? You can see here again. That's the distal end. That's the lateral epicondyle, medial epicondyle, which is bigger. Crista supraepicundiolaris medialis, crista supraepicundiolaris lateralis. Here you can read supraepicondylar ridge. Here you can read supracondylar ridge. It is not mistake. You can use both names. So, distally to this epicondyles is the condyle of the humerus with two parts, lateral, which is called capitulum humeri, and medial part, which is called trochlea humeri. Above them, we have fossa here. Above the capitulum is the radial fossa. Above the trochlea humeri is the coronoid fossa. And that's the anterior view. The two epicondyles, the two crests, the condyle of the humerus with its two parts, capitulum and trochlea. And above them, radial fossa and coronoid fossa. From the posterior view, again, you can see the medial epicondyle, the lateral epicondyle, and behind the medial epicondyle, you can see the groove for the ulnar nerve, sulcus nervi ulnaris. And above the trochlea, you can see fossa olecrani. Of course, the same ridge here. That's the deltoid tuberosity of the body. Here is the radial groove. So, again, head with the anatomical neck, lesser tubercle, greater tubercle, the groove, intertubercular groove between them. Below these tubercles is the surgical neck. Again, the head of the humerus, the anatomical neck, which surround the head. Two tubercles here, greater and lesser. And between them is located the intertubercular groove, sulcus bicipitalis or sulcus intertubercularis with two lips. Crista tuberculi majoris humeri, crista tuberculi crista tuberculi minoris humeri. Below the two tubercles is the surgical neck. On the body, we can see deltoid tuberosity here, and on the posterior side, radial groove for the radial nerve here, and also here. That's anterolateral surface, anteromedial surface, that's the posterior surface. Okay, that's about the body. About the distal, and you have to say the two epicondyles, lateral and medial. The medial one is bigger. Above them, the two crests, medial supraepicondylar crest and lateral supraepicondylar crest. That's the capitulum or the condyle of the humerus with two parts. The lateral part is called capitulum, and above it we can find radial fossa. The lateral part is called trochlea, and above it is the coronoid fossa. On the posterior side, we have only one fossa here, which is called fossa olecrani. Again, lateral epicondyle, medial epicondyle, and behind the medial epicondyle is the sulcus nervi ulnaris, the groove for the ulnar nerve. And that's the trochlea humeri. Questions? Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Wait 1 minute, please. So, I think to stop here for today. If you want, I can ask you some things. I don't have. Wait, just a second. Oh. What do you remember? This is the sternum with its three parts: manubrium, body, xiphoid process. What do you remember about the manubrium? What was that here? Just on the middle, on the superior border or margin?
The jugular notch.
Jugular notch. Perfect. On both sides of the jugular notch, we have a notch for the which bone?
Clavicle.
Perfect. Clavicular notch. Okay, this one here, another notch, but for what? This one and this one.
Ribs?
Here?
For the ribs?
For which number? Which rib?
The number 2 to 4? Oh, sorry, 2 to 3.
No.
No?
No. This is jugular notch. This is clavicular notch. And that's the notch for the first rib. Only for the first rib. We have one notch for the first rib here. What was the name between on this angle between the manubrium and the body of the sternum?
Sternal angle.
Sternal angle, which defines serves to define the level of the second rib, and you can see that's the facet for the second rib. The half part on the manubrium and the other half part on the body. Here should be the second rib. That's the facets for the ribs from 3, 4, 5 to 6. And you can see here The last articular facet for the seventh rib. Half part of it is on the body, the other half part is on the xiphoid process. That's the anterior side. And that's it for the manubrium. Next one. About this. What do you remember about the humerus? We have proximal part, distal part, and body. About the proximal part, what was that here? Which is rounded. And it's actually an articular surface for the glenoid cavity.
Is it the lesser tuberosity?
No? That's you can see here. Again. That's the head. Each long bone has proximal part, which is mainly the head, distal part, and body. So this rounded thing here is the head. For articulation with the glenoid cavity on the scapula. The head is surrounded by the line which is called anatomical neck. After that, we have this one and this one. What is this? That's
Greater and lesser tuberosity?
Yeah, that's the tubercles. Greater tubercle, lesser tubercle. Between them, there is a groove, intertubercularis, sulcus intertubercularis, or a bicipital groove. Below the tubercles is the other neck, which is called surgical. Yeah, surgical neck, which are the two lips of the intertubercular groove. Below the greater tubercle, we have one crest here. Crista tuberculi majoris humeri. Below the lesser tubercle, crista tuberculi minoris humeri. Here, on the anterolateral surface, one tuberosity, which is called deltoid tuberosity. What?
The tuberosity here.
Deltoid tuberosity. Here, on the posterior side, there is a groove for which nerve?
I forgot the name of the nerve.
Don't worry. Radial nerve. Radial. Nervus radialis. Okay, for the distal end, we have two tubercles. Two epicondyles, actually. This one is smaller than this one. That's why this should be epicondyus lateralis and epicondyus medialis. Above them, we have two crests, crista supraepicondylaris lateralis and crista supraepicondylaris medialis. On the anterior view, distal to these epicondyles, we have the condyle of the humerus with two parts. Which are they? Lateral part, medial part.
Is it the capitulum?
Yeah, the lateral part is capitulum. This one here, the lateral part,
I'm not sure.
trochlea humeri. Above them, we have two fossa here. Above the capitulum is the radial fossa. Above the trochlea is the coronoid fossa. On the posterior view, we have only one fossa. Did you remember the name? Only one. For the olecranon ulne, that's why the name of the fossa is fossa olecrani. And here, behind the medial epicondyle, should be another groove, but for the ulnar nerve. So on the posterior side is the groove for the radial nerve. Here at the distal end, behind the medial epicondyle, is groove for the ulnar nerve. Okay. Wait a minute. I want to find a picture without the names of the objects. I find something. Just 1 minute. Yeah. So which view of the scapula is this one, dorsal or ventral? How do you think?
Dorsal.
Perfect, dorsal view. Why? Because here you can see what? This one.
This.
Hmm?
I'm not sure about the dorsal.
That's
The
the
acromion.
Shoulder blade.
That's the spine of the scapula, and it divides the dorsal surface into two parts. One which is upper and smaller, and the other one is below the spine and its bigger part. So the superior part is called fossa supraspinata, right? And what's the name of the inferior part below the spine? If this is fossa supraspinata, this should be
Infraspinous.
fossa, yeah, infraspinous fossa, fossa infraspinata, yeah, perfect. Here, laterally, the spine continues like which process? And here we have the angle between them. This is acromion scapulae. And with an acromion angle between the acromion and the spine. We have three margins. That's the superior margin, that's the medial margin, lateral margin, and three angles: superior angle, inferior angle, lateral angle. And what we have here, on the lateral angle, we have glenoid cavity or fossa glenoidalis, or cavitas glenoidalis actually. Above cavitas glenoidalis, we have one tubercle, which is called tuberculum supraglenoidale. Below the cavity, we have the other tubercle, which is called infraglenoid tubercle, tuberculum infraglenoidale. That's the acromion scapula again. Here is the coracoid process. On the superior margin, we can see this notch here, which is called incisura suprascapularis. If here we have a ligament, superior transverse ligament, we could call foramen. It should be like a foramen, not a notch. So here is the anterior view. That's why that's the costal surface. Facies costalis or facies anterior, it doesn't matter. And what else? Nothing. Fossa subscapularis is this one here. So from the ventral view, we have only one fossa, fossa subscapularis. From the dorsal view, we have spina scapulae, the spine of the scapula, which divides this surface into two parts, fossa supraspinata and fossa infraspinata. On the anterior side, we have only one big fossa, fossa subscapularis. Questions? Do you have any questions? If you don't, we can stop here. And for the next week, if you are not here, we will continue with the online study. Can you hear me?
You are now unmuted. You are now muted.
Okay. So if you don't have questions,